The night I tripped over a nobody. The cameras flashed like lightning when Marina Hale stepped onto the loading dock of Hale Logistics, her kingdom of electric trucks and same-day miracles. Reporters were waiting because a union protest had blocked her midnight launch. She was the woman who fired men like emails, the tabloids said, the ruthless billionaire who never blinked. Marina was already composing the speech that would crush the protest, until she slipped on a coil of grease-slick hose and landed hard beside a pair of steel-toed boots. "Careful," a voice said. Low, steady, unbothered. Marina looked up at a mechanic kneeling in oil-stained coveralls, a bandana tied over close-cropped hair, amber eyes calm as dusk. The woman's hands were black with engine soot. A tattoo of a small compass peeked at her wrist. "You're blocking emergency access," the mechanic added, not recognizing the most powerful woman on site. Security lunged in, grabbing the mechanic by the arm. "Back off, Ray. That's Miss Hale." Ray. The name was a spark inside Marina's mind. Ray didn't flinch. "Then Miss Hale is standing where a coolant line just burst," she said, pointing to a shimmering trail. "And that could ignite a battery fire if we keep shouting instead of fixing." Marina's instinct was to assert control, to lift her chin and order people like chess pieces. But something in Ray's poise cut through the noise. Ray rolled a cart closer, cracked a valve, pinched a line with a clamp improvised from a wrench in her own belt, and the hiss faded. She saved a dock full of trucks in 30 seconds. The PR team crowded, feeding Marina lines to blame external agitators. Protesters chanted at the fence. Ray wiped oil from her cheek with the back of her hand and met Marina's eyes, seeing past the immaculate suit to the woman bracing behind it. "If you want the launch," Ray said, "you need the truth. You've got a saboteur in electrical, not a protest problem." "How do you know?" Marina asked despite herself. "Because I fixed the same accident last week and filed it." Nobody answered. Ray slid the clamp into place and stepped back. "You can fire a headline tonight or fix a system. But you can't do both." The chant rose. "Respect workers. Respect truth." Cameras waited for Marina to snap. Instead, she did something she had not done in years. She listened. "Show me," she said. And in that grease-smudged instant, the iron-willed billionaire felt her first wobble, not of power, but of certainty. It terrified her, and thrilled her. The wrench that opened a safe at 2 a.m., Ray led Marina through humming corridors to a locked electrical cage. "Only senior engineering has access," Marina said, swiping her master badge. "Red light. Access denied." She frowned. "Impossible." Ray's mouth tilted. She braced a flashlight between her teeth, reached behind a panel, and found a bypass someone had crudely soldered. The red light flipped green. "Not impossible, deliberate," Ray murmured. Inside, the breaker array told the story. Hairline cuts in insulation, coolant rerouted, timers set to fail during the launch. A scandal waiting to explode on live TV and bury Marina's reputation under accusations of negligence. Marina's throat tightened. "Someone wants me ruined." "Or bought," Ray said. "A competitor could scoop your routes after the headlines." "Name?" Ray shook her head. "I don't guess. I trace." She snapped photos, printed a maintenance log from a terminal, and slid it over. 3 work orders signed off by the same manager, deleted from the public dashboard, still stamped in the raw system log. "Why are you helping me?" Marina asked. People helped Marina for money, access, fear, or future favors. Never for nothing. Because if truth loses, we all lose. Drivers, mechanics, the planet you say you care about with those green trucks. Ray's eyes softened, the first warmth of a winter sun. "And because I hate waste. You built something good. It deserves better than cowards in clean shirts." In the break room, the night crew watched the protest on muted TV. Someone snorted at Marina's face on the screen. Ray stood between them and the doorway, as if she could hold back both chaos and cameras with her shoulders. A foreman sneered, "Look at the queen and her knight in tin plate." Marina's chief of operations burst in, sweating. "Board is on, line 3. We cancel the launch, we tell press it's the union." Marina stared at the blinking handset. The old Marina would weaponize the easy lie, crush dissent, and go home to a silent penthouse. She looked at Ray instead. Ray's palms were black, her belt missing, cheeks streaked with coolant, and somehow she looked like the most dignified person in the building. "Patch the board," Marina said, "and route press to me in 15. On the call, a director barked, "Shut it down and spin it." "I won't lose a quarter over mechanics' tantrums." "We're not spinning," Marina answered. "We're investigating sabotage internally, and we'll announce that publicly." "You'll tank our stock," another snapped. "We'll save our soul," Marina said. And this time, it wasn't a line. Cameras would carve her either way, but she would choose the cut she could live with. Ray tensed as if expecting fallout. Instead, Marina turned to her. "Stay with me," she said quietly. Ray tilted her head, wary. "To keep your image?" "No," Marina replied, surprising herself with the truth that had been knocking on her ribs. "To keep my courage." The board tried to break me first morning came like a subpoena. Headlines screamed, "Hale Logistics delays launch amid internal safety review." Shareholders seethed. Protesters thinned, replaced by suit-and-tie cameras. In the boardroom, 11 portraits stared down at Marina like judges from another century. "Transparency is admirable," said Chairwoman Lyle, voice sharp as glass. "But you have exposed us to litigation. Our outside counsel recommends you step back, temporarily." "Step back," Marina repeated, as in the optics of your brand have become combative. The phrase "fires men" trends every time you enforce policy. "We need a gentler face for a quarter," a director added with a patronizing smile. "Let operations manage the mess. Let men handle the men." Ray sat at the far wall as an invited mechanic witness. The word mechanic on her visitor badge looked like a dare. When the director said, "Let men handle the men," Ray's jaw flexed. Marina folded her hands. "If you want gentler optics, fix the reality. Someone inside this company tried to burn our launch. Here's the raw log, the altered work orders, the physical bypass." She slid evidence across the table. "And here's my decision. We notify OSHA, the press, and our own people, with proof. Then we fix it on camera. With the night crew." A laugh, snide, small. "You'll kneel on concrete for ratings?" It landed. Marina pictured the dock, the hoses, the shouted chants, Ray's steady hands. Kneel wasn't humiliation. Kneel could be service. "I'll kneel to tighten bolts," Marina said coolly. "And I'll stand to protect the people who keep these trucks alive." When the meeting adjourned in a spray of clipped outrage, Chairwoman Lyle lingered. "You have enemies, Marina," she murmured. "Not because you fire men, because you don't flinch. Watch your back." In the hall, Ray fell into step with Marina without asking. "You okay?" "No," Marina admitted. "But I'm done pretending that makes me weaker." They inspected the dock together. Reporters filmed Marina in a reflective vest, taking directions from Ray, learning how to torque a flange to spec. Comments rolled in live. "First time I've seen a CEO get her hands dirty." Respect for the honesty. About time one of them listened. When Ray made a joke about Marina's grip, "Careful." "Boss, you're about to strip the bolt." Marina almost laughed. Almost. Then her phone buzzed with a single message from an unknown number. "You refuse to step back. Fine. We'll drag you." A minute later, a new headline broke. Allegations surface. Hale Green grants misused for PR slush. The floor seemed to tilt. A slush fund tied to her signature. The camera lights turned hard. The board's trap had teeth after all. Framed with a green ribbon by noon, a task force of regulators and lawyers flooded the building. Her general counsel whispered, "The transfers look real. Routing numbers, approvals, everything." "I didn't authorize a slush fund," Marina said, heart pounding. "Pull the raw keys." My physical fob. My biometric timestamps. They matched. Her own credentials. Perfect forgery or perfect frame. Ray stood at the doorway, half out of place and half a sentinel. "Who uses your key when you're most distracted?" she asked quietly. Marina thought of gala nights, crisis calls, board dinners. Moments she left her office unlocked because people who wore trust had asked for 5 minutes. She thought of a senior VP who had once swaggered in to brag he'd saved a deal she hadn't wanted. She thought of the chief financial officer who had insisted on split approvals for agility. Ray moved to Marina's desk and eyed the keyboard. Most folks never change the default timeout. Mind if I try something? Be my guest. Ray popped the keycap off the enter key. A sliver of film slid free, transparent, printed with microscopic circuit lines. She held it to the light. Hardware overlay, she said. Cheap, clever, nasty. It copies keystrokes and piggybacks approval macros. Somebody made your desk their puppet. They traced the overlay to a delivery log. A keyboard replacement, 3 Fridays back, authorized by facilities, signed by someone who had resigned Monday. The address on file mapped to a warehouse used by a shell contractor that moved money as easily as boxes. The regulator's tone changed from hostile to cautious. Ms. Hale, if you share evidence immediately, it will mitigate sanctions. Marina's throat burned. She wanted to rage at the men who had built the trap, the headlines calling her a hypocrite, and the old version of herself who might have papered over this quietly and called it strategy. Instead, she whispered, "Let's tell the truth faster than they tell the lie." Ray squeezed her shoulder. "Just a second, just enough." "That's the line," she murmured. "Say it on camera." They did. Marina faced the press, palms open, eyes steady. She showed the overlay, the falsified work orders, the sabotage in electrical. She said the words that scared investors and saved souls. "We were compromised from within, and we are cooperating fully. Safety and integrity come before profit. Every time." The stock dipped. The comments split. But the night crew, the people who smelled like coolant and coffee, stood taller. On a grainy live stream, a janitor posted, "Boss kneeled to scrub oil with us." It went viral, not because it was pretty, but because it was true. That night, outside the building in the cool dark, Marina finally shook. "I've never been this exposed," she admitted, voice cracking. Ray leaned against the wall beside her, leaving a respectful inch of quiet. "Power isn't a wall," Ray said. "It's a window. Folks want to see if you mean what you say." Marina turned, studied the grease on Ray's knuckles, the steadiness in her eyes. "Why do you keep showing up for me?" Ray smiled, small and bright. "Because when the building was on fire, you didn't look for a scapegoat. You grabbed a hose." The answer landed in places Marina hadn't touched in years. She was used to admiration that calcified into fear. Ray's belief felt different. It felt like a key, one that opened from the inside. Instant karma has a time card. The break came from the smallest person in the room. Pilar, a night janitor with silent shoes and a detective's memory, knocked on Ray's toolbox. "You're the only one who listens," she told Ray. "Been seeing a man in the VP wing at odd hours. Wears a contractor badge. But he talks like a CFO." They checked the camera. Logs. Gaps. They checked badge swipes. Clean. They checked the coffee. Machine. Bingo. A spill time-stamped. 1:13 a.m. the night the slush. Transfers went through stir. Stick printed with the contractor's logo. Tossed in a bin that facilities forgot to empty. Ray grinned. Trash doesn't lie. They cornered the contractor at his warehouse. He folded fast when Ray produced a photo of the hardware overlay. "It was just a job," he pleaded. "The money man said you were a tyrant who'd ruin good people. He said this was justice." "Name," Marina said. He whispered a name. The CFO. The one who'd told journalists off record that women who rule like kings create widows. Instant karma sometimes takes its time, and then arrives with sirens. The regulator team returned with warrants. The CFO's text spilled out. Contempt for the Queen, a plan to force her to heal, spreadsheets where sabotage was an expense line. He'd looped in 2 senior managers and a board ally who liked to giggle in interviews when asked if Marina was too emotional to run with the wolves. They all wore suits when they were led past the cameras. It didn't help them. Chairwoman Lyle called a special meeting on the warehouse floor, not the marble boardroom. I allowed culture to rot where it sounded like strategy, she said, voice fierce with accountability. I resign as chair. The board will face a shareholder vote. The night crew clapped. Not loud, not mocking. Just real. Marina stepped to the mic. Today is not my victory. It belongs to the people who kept telling the truth. Ray, Pilar, the crews, the regulators who cared more about safety than headlines. I did not kneel to power today. I knelt to learn. I'll do it again. After, under the empty dawn, Ray walked her to the edge of the dock. The city yawned awake. Trucks lined like soldiers awaiting orders, but gentler now, almost hopeful. Marina looked at Ray's hands. You saved my company, Ray chuckled. You saved it. I just refused to watch it burn. She hesitated. I don't do fancy words, but I know the difference between fear and respect. Tonight, folks saw a boss who respects them. Marina's laugh was a breath. I don't do fancy feelings. Lie, Ray said, warm. You feel in paragraphs. The billionaire who never flinched felt her knees soften, not in defeat, but in gratitude. Come to the launch, Marina said. Stand with me. I don't stand on stages. Then stand beside me, Marina corrected, where it matters. Love launched on a loading dock. The relaunch wasn't glossy. It was honest. The live stream began with Marina in a vest, hair tied back, sleeves rolled, Ray at her side. She thanked workers by name. She read a statement promising profit tied to safety metrics, audits published quarterly, whistleblower protections with bonuses. She announced a 1% revenue share for the people who turned wrenches, swept spills, and drove miles so cities could breathe cleaner air. Reporters asked whether this was penance for firing men. Marina didn't flinch. I fire people who endanger others, men and women. Today we're building a culture where fewer people deserve firing. A journalist shouted, Who is she? Gesturing toward Ray with that hungry press curiosity. Ray, who hated stages, raised a hand anyway. Ray Navarro, mechanic, systems tech, citizen. She smiled crooked. Not a PR prop. It should have been the end of the story. The company cleaned, the villains exposed, the trucks humming into a brighter morning. But something else had been building in the quiet between sirens and speeches. Something softer than power and stronger than fear. That night, when the dock finally emptied and the moon took its shift, Marina found Ray under the skeleton of a truck, boots braced, shoulders speckled with stardust and brake dust. I don't have a script, Marina said, kneeling beside the chassis. I only have the truth. Ray slid out, heartbeat in her mouth. Say it plain. I thought strength meant never needing anyone. You taught me it means needing the right ones, openly. I thought leadership meant never kneeling. You taught me it means kneeling to learn. I built a company. Marina's voice broke, then steadied. You helped me build a life I'm not ashamed of. Ray's eyes shone, the compass tattoo catching the light like a promise. I like you better with grease on your cheek, she whispered, brushing a thumb against it. Marina huffed a laugh. I like you better everywhere. She swallowed. Stay with me. Not as a symbol. As my choice. Ray looked past Marina to the trucks, the city, the road that ran out of sight. She had spent a lifetime underestimated and overused by people who loved her labor more than her life. She held Marina's gaze. On one condition. Name it. We keep telling the truth even when it hurts. We keep choosing people over headlines. We keep kneeling when learning makes us better. And we keep standing when justice needs us taller. Deal, Marina said. No contract, no counsel, just a vow in mechanic light. They kissed, not for the cameras, not for the brand, but for themselves. Slow, certain. Two women who had been reduced to caricatures, Ice Queen, Dirty Girl, finding names they wanted to answer to, partner, protector, love. Weeks later, the culture shifted in everyday ways. Men who'd laughed learned to listen. Women who'd been quiet took mics and tools. Pilar became head of facilities integrity, with the authority to shut down any line that smelled wrong. Chairwoman Lyle returned, not as chair, but as board mentor on ethics and worker voice. And the union? They negotiated a contract that tied bonuses to safety and innovation instead of raw speed. On the anniversary of the relaunch, Ray wheeled a new prototype onto the dock, a modular battery carriage she'd designed in stolen hours. The crowd counted down. The carriage clicked into place like a future locking in. Marina stepped forward, took Ray's hand in full view of crew and cameras, and spoke the only line that ever mattered in the end. "Respect everyone. We built something stronger than power today. We built trust." The cheer rose, not hungry this time, but full. The launch was more than trucks moving. It was a city learning that dignity isn't a headline, it's a habit. And when the lights dimmed and the doors rolled shut, the billionaire and the mechanic walked the length of the dock together, shoulders touching, unafraid of grease or gossip. They had earned their quiet. They had earned their tomorrow. Respect everyone. Don't judge a book by its cover.